At the Valdai Discussion Club meeting, Putin congratulated Donald Trump on his election as the new president of the USA and emphasized that he is ready to be the first to call Trump to congratulate him on his election. The fact that he has not done this yet, Putin explained by saying that Western leaders who used to call him almost weekly, suddenly, it seems, stopped contacting him, and Putin does not know why this happened. Well, they stopped, and they stopped. There's nothing to be done about it, said the president of the Russian Federation to his listeners. He then began to talk about Donald Trump's courage, mentioning the behavior of the former and now future American president during the unsuccessful assassination attempt on his life. So we see not just a greeting. We see how Vladimir Putin, with the skill of an experienced Chekist, conducts an operation to establish trust with a person he would like to use, if, of course, he succeeds, for his own political interests. Putin knows how much Trump is receptive to flattery, and he repeats words about Trump's courage and bravery, hoping soon quotes from his statements at the discussion club meeting will be relayed to the future American president. Well, against this backdrop, it is clear why Vladimir Putin speaks about Donald Trump's intentions to restore cooperation with the Russian Federation and to end the conflict in Ukraine as deserving attention. If we compare these words of Putin with the recent statements of Russian officials that the Russian leader does not intend to greet the new American president, we will understand that there has been a certain shift here. From the idea of ignoring the very fact of the change of power in the USA, the Kremlin has moved to an operation to engage this new power with the aim of achieving maximum results for itself. What results could there be? Vladimir Putin sees Donald Trump's obvious intention to end the war in Ukraine. This may not align with his desires. However, in this situation, Vladimir Putin may seek to establish a negotiating platform that leads to acute destabilization of the political situation in Ukraine and allows Russia to either advance more effectively in Ukrainian territories, to capture as much territory as possible in its further military actions, or to transform Ukraine into a puppet state, which will be led, if not by a pro-Russian government, then by a government willing to maintain specific subordinate relations with the Russian Federation, as is the case, for example, in post-war Georgia. But in order to play this card, Vladimir Putin certainly needs his own contacts with the new president of the USA. He at least needs to break his own isolation in the West. He needs to show that now, after Donald Trump has been elected as the new president of America, the new American leadership does not intend to act like the administration of Joseph Biden, but rather is ready to restore political contacts with the leadership of the Russian Federation. Even if the negotiation process between Russia and Ukraine regarding the end of the war is not accompanied by any success, the fact that the Kremlin and the White House have resumed their dialogue will be a serious political victory for the Russian leader and will free his hands to continue the war of attrition against the neighboring country. So from this point of view, of course, the Russian leader needs Donald Trump to see how seriously Vladimir Putin regards his victory and to his behavior during the election campaign. After all, Putin is well aware of how closely Donald Trump follows everything that world leaders say about him. And of course, there is also competition with Volodymyr Zelensky. Vladimir Putin noticed that Zelensky was among the first to congratulate Donald Trump and also had a phone conversation with the new US leader, For Putin and the Russian political leadership, which is focused on restoring Russian dominance in the post-Soviet space, this is a bad signal. It is a signal that may indicate that in the USA they may continue, despite the change of power, to consider the necessity of supporting Ukraine in its confrontation with Russian aggression. And of course, in this situation, Putin wants to change the situation to his advantage. To become a person who publicly speaks about Donald Trump's courage and how Moscow values the intentions of the new US leader to restore contacts with the Russian Federation. And I would like to remind you that all these statements by Vladimir Putin come against the backdrop of reports that Donald Trump's team is preparing its own plan to end the Russian-Ukrainian war, which does not foresee the restoration of Ukraine's territorial integrity and at the same time closes the path to our country's Euro-Atlantic integration not for years, but for decades. And against the backdrop of reports that, in fact, Russia and Ukraine are negotiating through intermediaries, which are supposed to lead to the end of the Russian-Ukrainian war. And these negotiations about the need to start talks have already taken place in many places with the mediation of representatives from the G7 countries and even the People's Republic of China. And although, of course, this should not be so much a presentation of facts as a presentation of informational inserts, the very fact that against the backdrop of such reports in Western media, the Russian president says he will carefully consider Donald Trump's proposal to end the Russian-Ukrainian war and compliments the new American president, all of this should indicate that Putin has prepared his own agenda regarding dialogue to end his aggressive war against Ukraine. He is ready to follow this agenda not only in the corridors, but also in public events, where, of course, he is the main political star. Thank you, friends. Stay on this channel, subscribe to it, follow my social media, the channels Buy Me a Ko-fi, Patreon, and Donald's, which help develop these products. Use the sponsorship feature on YouTube itself. Victory and peace to you. Good luck.